Thank you so much, Joe. You all know that you're blessed to have Dr. Poyman's leadership leading the fight to protect life in Texas. But I just want to say thank you, Dr. Poyman, for all you do to Texas Alliance for Life and to your leadership circle. It is a joy and a pleasure to be sort of having lunch with you all as we all get used to this virtual world. I'll apologize in advance if it gets a little loud in my house. I've got my college kids home doing virtual college from my dining room table, and so you may hear a little background noise, but I guess that just makes it more authentic. For those of you all who do not know me, I am Dr. Dawn Buckingham, the Senator for District 24, which stretches from Bandera to Temple to Abilene. I am a practicing ophthalmologist, been married to my wonderful husband for 28 years. He and I are both physicians, and then of course have 2 kids in college. So that's keeping us pretty busy right now. The virus and this whole environment has kept us very busy as we are working hard to help our constituents with everything they need. And it was kind of a great time. One of the highlights probably of this current time is that for a period there weren't any abortions in Texas, and we are with you with that fight to end abortions in Texas, and it'll be a happier day when that's a more permanent situation. Just to give you a little background, I am the first woman to ever represent this Senate district. I am the first Republican from Travis County ever to serve in the Texas Senate. I was named co-most valuable freshman after our first session in 2017. And I'm the first legislator to serve on the Sunset Commission after serving as a public member, and now will serve as the vice chair for that. So we're looking forward to that, and that's starting up this summer. I'm also one of the most junior senators to ever serve as chairwoman of the nominations committee, which is great because I get to lead the confirmation efforts for all of the governor's appointees to all the boards across Texas. And then, as some of you maybe saw me last election cycle, I'm the first state legislator to have ever served as victory chair for the Republicans of Texas. So that keeps us pretty busy. I know we're going to be taking questions, and I know one of those questions, even though you've kind of gone over it in previous visits, is, what did we accomplish in the fight for life? Last legislative cycle. There were several, but of highlights, we had House Bill 16, which was the Born Alive bill, the Texas Born Alive Protection Act. And basically, it just means that if a child is born, then the doctor actually has to save its life, which was amazing that we have to have those conversations, but we were excited about that. Another one that we were very excited about was Senate Bill 22, which is the Planned Parenthood Defunding Act. We were seeing where state dollars had been banned to go to abortion providers, but we were seeing some city tax dollars. The city of Austin had given, the abortion providers a pretty sweetheart deal with regard to rent and other things, and so we wanted to stop the city dollars to going to fund abortions as well. Senate Bill 24 is an informed consent bill. It just would ensure abortion providers and physicians physically handed state-approved informational pamphlets to persons seeking an abortion. And of course, we supported additional $79 million in funding for the state's Alternatives to Abortion program. So we were very excited about those accomplishments. We look forward to working with everyone about how we advance the cause of life in the future. I was kind of one of those people who is always pro-life. I think it came from just my upbringing in the church. And I always tell the story because people ask me, why do you believe so strongly in life? And first of all, I think as Christians, we're all called to defend the defenseless. The Bible talks about how God knows us even before we're born. And, when I was a young mom pregnant with my babies, the OB-GYN wanted to do an amniocentesis. I wasn't that young of a mom because my medical training delayed the onset of me having kids a little bit, but there was a pretty high chance that my children would have had a genetic defect, and my OB-GYN recommended that amniocentesis testing, which carries with it a chance of causing a miscarriage. And so, even even at that stage in my life, I was like, why would I ever put my baby in jeopardy? I'm going to love it and have it regardless of whatever is genetically wrong with it. And it's just kind of grown from there. So it's an honor and pleasure to be with y'all. I know we have lots going on. I think we're taking questions from the audience. They're coming in still, but one question I just got by text. Apparently, I've got some people I know out there. But one of the bills that we were a co-sponsor on was 2160, the trigger ban, called the trigger ban. It's a bill that would ban abortions when the Supreme Court hopefully one day overturns Roe v. Wade. It did not pass in Texas, but we will look forward to fighting on that again. And of course, are excited about other states passing that that legislation. So one of the other questions that we got was, what sort of pro-life legislation, if any, are you looking at tackling? And at the moment, we are currently helping our constituents in various ways to make it through the COVID-19 pandemic, such as guiding them through the unemployment benefits process and ensuring that businesses have the right to inform our information to secure their SBA loans, and assisting them in understanding current executive orders. You know, as this time passes, we look forward to working with our colleagues in the House and Senate to ensure we keep working for life. I've been amazed at what our pregnancy resource centers have been doing throughout this crisis. Many of you all may know Laurie Diaz with the Austin Pregnancy Resource Center, and of course she's associated with similar institutions across the state, country, and actually abroad. But it was great. I was talking to Laurie, and you know, they're working hard for our moms who need help and need diapers and formula and all kinds of things. And the pregnancy resource centers have really been going above and beyond, and I'm sure many of you have been a part of that, helping those moms get the resources and the materials that they need. So lots of good things happening, even though it's a tough time. Carl, for your question, and that gives me an opportunity to thank each of you for being a big part of the Texas Alliance for Life PAC. Honestly, the biggest challenge to life in Texas, as you know, is you know, the fact that we've got a chance that the House will flip Democrat, and you may not know, the Texas Senate requires oftentimes 19 votes to bring up a bill. That means to pass pro-life legislation, we have to have 19 votes. Currently, we have 19 Republicans. Now, granted, in the Texas Senate, we have some Democrats who are also strongly pro-life, but as the numbers in the Texas House and Senate start to shift, it makes passing stronger pro-life legislation more and more difficult. And honestly, we start to risk the steps that we have been making, the advances we have been making. If things start to flip in the House and the Senate, then we run risk of those being undone. So I think the first thing, as Dr. Poyman pointed out earlier, is thank you for being part of the PAC. Thank you for all your endorsements and pushing the information out and talking about life. We need to keep our pro-life majority in the Texas House and Senate, and then we need to figure out how to partner together and move forward to those advances. But first, we've got to get good candidates in the upcoming runoff for those that have runoffs, and then secondly, we need the very strong showing in November, and that's the first step to really being sure we could keep life being protected throughout this next session. Great question. You know, it's funny because before I ran for the Texas Senate, I was an advocate on healthcare for about 15 years and was up in the legislature testifying often throughout the sessions. And I'll never forget, you know, you're up there, you're waiting for hours, you're nervous, you're hoping you don't freeze, you only have a couple minutes, there's sweat rolling down your back, you're afraid you're going to get attacked. It's very stressful. But it's so incredibly important. Because I spent so much time testifying in front of the legislature before I was elected, I always try and be nice to everyone who testifies, even if I strongly disagree with what they're saying, just out of that stretch of humanity. But coming down, sharing your story is very important. And so I would encourage you to come down. I would encourage you to speak from the heart. We always take the written testimony. Everything that's given to us is read. I do think this next session is going to be a little interesting with the virus. There may be some different policies and procedures, but telling it just from the heart and your story is so much more powerful than just reading it off. And I know all of us think we want to get every detail in, but telling that story that drives home the point. Some of the most powerful testimony I've ever heard in the Senate is on the life side of things. We had a lovely young lady come and speak. She was a twin. Her mother was a very young pregnant teenager and had gone for an abortion and thought that abortion had been successful. And it was for one of the twins. And so now that mom looks at her child every day and realizes there was one just like her that didn't survive, and that twin knows what happened in that womb. And it was a really powerful story. There was not a dry eye in that whole Senate committee, even those that are pro-choice, because everyone realizes what an incredibly powerful story that is and how it moves everybody. And so coming to tell your personal stories, sharing the stories of life and why it's so important is so incredibly important. So I encourage everybody to come down. We'll see how we're doing with social distancing and how all that works during session. We have a committee, Senator Brian Hughes is in charge of the committee, looking at how we think we'll be handling committees and testimony next session. Of course, he's a strong pro-life advocate as well. And so it'll be interesting, but come on down. We would love to see you. It's not as bad, hopefully, as you think it's going to be. As always, it's a joy and a pleasure to be with y'all, and keep up the fight. It's a very good fight, and what you're doing is incredibly important to Texas.